Welcome back to Inside Prediction Markets. Coming up, we're going to have our guest, John Schilling, in the Optic Odds Hot Seat to discuss the Masters. But first, we're going to do the three things we noticed in prediction markets this week. Chris, why don't you lead us off?
So the first thing is a little chilly, but Novig is being represented at the Masters. We're having all the live golfers wear our patch, and we're doing a promotion. Henry, why don't you explain a little about the promotion? I know you
Sure,
got explained.
we're sponsoring John Rahm, Cam Smith, a bunch of the top golfers from Live. They're going to be wearing our logos, which is really awesome. And we're giving away 500,000 Novig Cash. Basically, it's like King of the Court on DraftKings, where each day of the Masters, you trade one golfer. It could be anybody to win the tournament. And if they actually win, you're part of a prize pool. So it's cool. There's a little bit of game theory to it, where you want to be part of the least selected golfer relative to their odds to win. And I think we have a site up, augusta.novig.com, where we're tracking all of the entries. So you can, it kind of like with Circa Survivor or something, right? Try to be the least owned player. So this is something that we're demoing for this tournament. I think it's really cool. I think we might end up running it for more golf tournaments, but there's 500K we're giving away.
Not with 500,000 every single tournament though.
500K is expensive. Yeah, so check it out. It's live on the app right now. All right, number 2. Let's go third circuit.
Yeah. So third circuit, I have to learn it up. I go to Audie for this stuff. Like he puts a great Substack out and puts tweets about this. That's 80 high, or Audie. If you don't know him, he's a great follow on Twitter. He's also been a guest on Inside before, but he talked about how they ruled in prediction markets' favor, and now if there's a conflicting,
What was the specific decision, Chris?
that I'm not sure about.
Oh, it was I think Kalshi. So New Jersey's trying to block Kalshi from offering sports contracts, and Kalshi, I believe, filed an injunction against them, and the courts ruled in Kalshi's favor that they can continue to offer sports contracts in New Jersey. The state can't block them. And I think the big thing is the jurisdiction question, right? They kind of declared, no, this is a federal matter, that state by state, you can't decide whether or not these are legal contracts.
Yeah, my interpretation of it, I didn't really understand why or what I just know it was a win for Kalshi. Was that if a different circuit disagrees, this is almost for sure going to Supreme Court, and then we'll get a final ruling, and all the frivolous lawsuits and the back and forth and all the massive legal fees that everyone's paying will end, and either sports contracts will be allowed or not allowed. And it's just further proving that we're definitely getting a Supreme Court case, and it's another win, and it's more likely now that the Supreme Court will rule in prediction markets' favor. So the third thing that I noticed this week is the polymarket fees. It's very funny reading all these tweets about it. What did people think was going to happen? That polymarket has like no revenue stream. They were doing a great thing with no fees. I mean, like really outside of us and polymarket, there was not a single real exchange that had no fees. And it's very hard, like unless you have someone talented like Henry in your corner, like who's able to generate revenue in other ways, it's really, really hard to offer no fees for forever. So they were always going to come, and people are like, "Oh, polymarket has ruined their brand with the fees." It's like, what did you expect was going to happen? They were just going to spend all the VC money and then just die a slow death that way with no revenue coming in? Like, of course, at some point they needed to offer or they need to generate revenue. They've already grown huge. Their brand is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the prediction market space. So they've already accomplished everything they wanted to. They just try to turn the money faucet on now.
The day they announced what they called big changes to their back end, all the way down to how the CLOB works and maybe the matching engine works, which sounds kind of like patching some of the errors that people have seen on polymarket in the past. But that's still good. Declaring that you've made big improvements to core tech is always a good thing. And along with the announcement, they announced that they're releasing their own token, and they're going to back contracts for the international product against their own token. Now, this announcement was not accompanied with any news of an airdrop. which if you were a polymarket airdrop grinder is a little concerning, right? You would kind of hoped that the token and the airdrop, if it exists at all, would be announced together. So I know that those who have just been volume maxing polymarket since day one, hoping for a big payout, are on the edge of their seats waiting for some follow-up news. But I think that's still kind of in beta. So we don't really know what the full story will be there. But directionally good stuff from Polymarket. And this week, for the first time ever, we are sponsored by Optic Odds. For those of you who don't know, Optic Odds is an unbelievable product. It's a service provider that can send you via API all upcoming games, markets, odds from all across sports books, prediction markets. We're talking derivatives, player props, futures, everything. Uh, this is the tech behind Odds Jam, which obviously has come up a lot on the show and is one of the most popular consumer products for odd shopping and steam chasing and all these sorts of things. But Optic Odds is really their premier business product. We know it's very popular with a lot of the guests we've had on, and is quickly becoming kind of a cornerstone of the tech stack for many players in prediction markets. So it was just a really natural partnership, and we couldn't be more excited to have them sponsoring us.
Yeah. It's nice to get a product that you actually use. I mean, we use it every single day. Without us, we'd be a lot worse off. And you know, the good and bad about Optic is the good thing is it's very useful and it can really help you earn in a lot of aspects. The bad thing is if you don't use Optic, you're really far behind already. And like using it doesn't give you that much of an advantage because anyone serious likely has it or something very close to it already.
So coming up, we're going to have our guest, John Schilling, in the Optic Odds Hot Seat to discuss the Masters. Hey, by the way, if you're a regular listener to Inside Prediction Markets or just joining us for the first time to get a Masters edge, we really appreciate likes, subscriptions on YouTube, rating 5 stars on your podcast app. All of that stuff helps drive listeners to the show and helps us keep the show going, which really supports us. So thanks in advance for doing that. Right now in the Optic Odds Hot Seat, we have John Schilling, aka Golden Pants 13, one of the premier prediction market makers and one of the premier content creators in the space with his own show, Risk Takers, which we are both huge fans of. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Both previous guests though, too.
Yeah,
True.
it's only right that we interview you now. You haven't done
That's
one
right.
in a while. All right, let's talk some golf.
Yes.
The Masters are coming up. When this airs, the Masters will be tomorrow, as we also hinted, and I believe we've told John already this, but we're doing a huge promo about the Masters. All the live golfers, minus Bryson, will be repping the Novig brand, and we have a huge promo. You can bet a golfer or trade a golfer rather on Novig and have a chance to win up to $500,000, kind of like King of the Court, as Henry mentioned earlier. But anyway, let's talk. I'll open the floor to you, John. What are your general takes about the Masters? What's different about this course than an average course throughout the PGA Tour?
Damn. I mean, first of all, big props on getting some. I need a round with Dustin Johnson if you guys can arrange that if he ever comes back to South Carolina. I'm just gonna throw that in there right now. He can be in the Optic Odds Hot Seat camera versus me in a match or whatever, and we can do that. No, I mean the Masters is, I think, generally like most people's favorite golf tournament. I could see some case for the British Open because it just has its own flair, but the Masters is the first major of the year. The majors in golf are kind of always how the best players in the game are measured. Jack Nicklaus with the most, Tiger, at seemingly going to fall short. But yeah, it's the first major of the year. And as far as like from a golf standpoint, and I know we'll talk about a betting standpoint, but I think Augusta is an interesting course because you'll hear like course history matters the most at Augusta. From a data standpoint, I would say that is basically true. Like course history is the most predictive there. And why is it true? I think it's because it just has like a lot of. It's the one course they play every year for the majors, first of all. So it doesn't have a big field. So just getting to play it a lot isn't easy. So like people who've played it, like, Phil came runner up in like 2023 when he like kind of sucked and was like 53 years old. But he's just like really good at understanding Augusta at this point. The greens are very severe, a lot of slopes and stuff. You're not necessarily aiming at the flag. You're aiming at certain spots of the green to either, make the dispersion of your shot like not too penal or to have it like funnel down to the flag. So there's just a lot of stuff you got to know about the course. I think it rewards good players, like mostly like really good players win the Masters. You got to have a good short game. You got to hit the irons well. Like I'd say there's some fluky winners in the other events, and certainly there's been a couple fluky Masters winners, but it's usually just a who's who of best golfers ever.
Yes, and I'll give a shout out to my good friend Clars24 on Twitter. I've been pegging him for information so I don't look like a complete fool when talking about this. But there's 4 key aspects in golf typically. It's driving, approach shot, around the green, and putting. And typically, John, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but around the green is the least important of the 4 skills for most courses. Would you agree with that?
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
But in Augusta, it is an elevated skill. I don't know if it's more important than putting or approach shot, but with the course being so long, and you have a lot of long irons with like 180 yards to go, you're going to miss the greens more often, and you get a short game is going to be even more important.
Damn, dude.
Is that correct? Would
Did you
agree with
read
that?
straight? That was good. That was good. I'm
That's
actually
straight from Clark.
Yeah. Shout out to Clars. I'm gonna get him on next year's Master Pod. I got calling it now, but yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think at Augusta, you have a lot of around the green shots, and they're difficult. Like I think a lot some like if you imagine your around the green shot that you would hit at like your local course, it's probably the rough's probably not too penal. The green's probably pretty flat. All of the pros are going to chip that pretty close. It's not going to separate. So there's a lot of around the green, which Clark says, like just the number around the green shots, like that bucket's higher. But I also think like the better around the green players separate per shot at a higher rate.
Let's talk about this. Everyone knows Scotty's good at all 4 aspects of the game. I mean, he might be the best around the greens guy here, but who are a couple guys that are just good at that skill set that maybe are worth a look for winning the Masters?
Someone like Hideki, I think it gets is really good irons and around the green. His driving is so, but it doesn't need to be amazing. Augusta's like a weird driving course. And yeah, I think Hideki is like the example of a golfer who Augusta National is kind of perfect for. I mean, Patrick Reed, a lot of people will say. I think that's another good name, but he'll be thrown out there. Some people who kind of struggle around the greens. I had a tweet earlier that said if you bet Aubert at plus 1500, you have no mojo, hang it up, play to the heritage.
What happened with him? I remember a year and a half ago reading that like he was going to rival like Scott. He was going to be number 2 and rival Scotty. I haven't seen it. Like, what's going on? Like, didn't he have like a sick driver and approach shot, and it's kind of fallen off? It feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see it. I think he's really good, but he clearly has something going on under pressure where he's pulling and kind of pulling in. He has this like consistent left pull miss. You saw it at the Players. You saw it this week at Valero. I don't know. Yeah, there's something going on with him. Great player, super young, but I think he's like, I don't know. He kind of gets treated like he's like better than like Tommy Fleetwood, which I don't understand. Tommy Fleetwood's an interesting one for Augusta. I mean, his strength is he's strong throughout the bag, but he's really accurate with the driver, which isn't like as important here. But I think like broadly speaking, he's kind of flying under the radar.
Henry, I gave you a list of other guys. Do you have any other guys that were good near the green?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Dude, I'm listening closely.
Okay. All right. I got it. It's not good. I was also thinking Minwoo Lee and Matt Fitzpatrick are good around the green.
Yeah.
All right.
Minwoo Lee is interesting. I like does Clark like Minwoo Lee?
This is straight from him. In top-down fashion, I've stolen everything from him.
I kind of like Minwoo. I mean, his irons are
That's what he
going to
said.
be a bit of an issue. He's going to really need to find it a bit with the irons, but like I think Minwoo's short game is super underrated because he's a bomb. I think people just assume bombers don't have good short games, but like there are bombers that do. He certainly fits that category. I mean, if he can give himself some shorter irons, you know, the irons are probably a little spooky for me with him. Like it's just a really, really hard approach course, which is why you see like Rahm, Scotty, Rory, everybody, like people who are just really good, like consistently contending. It's just time over time, like you just have to sit there all day and not fuck up. Just boom, boom, boom. And I just worry about him a little bit there, but I like it. I see what Clark's is saying. Who was the second one that Clark's had there?
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
He also said Hideki for what it's worth too. He agreed with you, Hideki.
Yeah. Fitzpatrick, I think is actually really interesting. He's playing really well. I think we've really kind of updated our opinion on him pretty quickly recently. He's done his driving game is just completely like turned around. His approach game's much better, and he's always been a good short game. I think he's somebody that like I would potentially want to maybe give a slight manual adjust stuff. You know, he's the other thing with Augusta and majors in general, like there is it sounds funny, or there's like this huge debate on like whether it mattered if you played well in majors, like if that was predictive or not. And it kind of centered around Brooks Koepka. I don't know if this is like something Clark's brought up.
No, I know the Brooks thing. It's funny. I had a conversation about Brooks with him like a year ago where he would upgrade Brooks for majors from like, I think he would upgrade him like half a stroke or something like and a pretty sizable manual adjustment because Brooks is so obviously does not give a shit most of the time and then gives a shit for the Masters and for majors. So it's like you have to upgrade, like his previous results don't matter as much. All right, two other questions I got for you that we can talk into some more real prediction market stuff. What's your over under winning score? Is someone going to shoot better than par, or is that not going to happen this course?
Oh, par will be broken.
Okay.
I heard it's pretty firm. Not that it's always firm. I could see like, I don't know, I feel like 12 is the easy answer. Maybe like 10 or 11.
Shows how little. I know. I remember there was one tournament where like the winning score was like barely broke par, so I didn't know.
Oh, that's US Open. Yeah. They'll do these guys. They'll put these guys in the ground in the US Open. Yeah. Masters is a little more like, it's really hard, but like there's birdies out there.
So I was trying to get a rough idea of the market. I was pulling up my Data Golf, great resource for those newbies that don't have a good model like yourself or cars. But I was shocked to see Scotty at only like 15% or whatever. Like, am I mistaken? Was last year he not 20% plus on all the majors?
Data Golf has Scotty at 15.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me double check. I'm gonna look like an idiot if it's. No, he has him at he has him at 12%, not.
That's lower. That's lower than we have for sure. Like we're always higher on Scotty, but yeah. I mean, what everybody, the thing with Scotty is he hasn't really hit his irons like Scotty this year. He added a bunch of distance in the off season, and the theory is it's kind of fucked up his iron swing. I guess it certainly, he's definitely added club head speed and ball speed. That's for sure. I could see it, but like at the same time, it's Scotty. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
12 is too low. I think.
it's
I
that's
don't
true.
know if
Just
17 is too low, but like 12 is too low for
it's
sure.
it's interesting because it's just like, it seems like last year it was Scotty and then like massive like gap, and then like Rory or Rahm were bouncing in 2 and 3. Now it's just like
Yep.
Rahm is closer. Like Rahm is number
Mhm.
2 and is he that much worse than Scotty right now? Which is it's
Bullshit.
a little weird because I was asking like a year ago, like, what does Scotty have to do to rival Tiger for greatest player of all time? But
Yeah.
now he has to keep it up for 8
It's
more years.
fickle. It's a fickle game. Scotty like is I think legitimately has a shot to go down as one of the best three to ever put the tee in the ground. And probably his ceiling's 3 beyond Jack and Tiger. But there's a long way to go. There's a long way to go, but he's as good as we've relative to the field, like what we've seen from Scotty hasn't been done since Tiger. I don't really know how, like, it's hard to tell like what everything was like before Tiger, but there's been nothing really close to it since, but it certainly wasn't at the level of Tiger. So he just needs to keep it up. I think clean living may let him last a bit longer. So he could chase Tiger down into his 40s, where Tiger kind of stalled out early. That could be his best shot.
My favorite thing. Shout out to Dana Golf. I think it's a great resource.
Yeah,
Just
for
like
sure.
if you're just a
I use
fan.
it all the time.
Yeah, I'm a fan of golf, like sweating them, and I'm not using it for like alpha or anything, but it's pretty good. Like I don't need to bother like you or Clars for like, okay, what do you think of this? I can just get a rough, better than market opinion most of the time. My favorite thing about it is looking at the historical things. It's like best seasons, and then they have excluding Tiger because Tiger is so much
Yeah,
an outlier that
exactly.
they can't put him there. He would
Right.
dominate.
He has like the top 7, and
Yeah.
then it's like Scotty, and then it's like Tiger, 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 Scotty. You know what's funny about that is I got a message from somebody who was like, "Hey, this guy who owes me big has um Aubert and McIntyre in the last event. What do you make them?" And I was like on a plane. I'm like, I don't know. Like check data golf and figure out because he's like trying to sweat like getting paid back.
Yikes.
Oh, now that we're talking about data golf, and I finally can have something to chime in, I want to ask John a little bit about the evolution of the golf market. So, like when I kind of really got into betting sports maybe 5 years ago, um, in my experience, a lot of the sharp action ended up being on matchups just because, like, if you were playing stuff into PPHs, you couldn't really expect a credit bookie to pay out a 30 to 1 with any consistency, right? There's no point in handicapping it. Um, and the one-sided markets, the vig is way high. I mean, bookmakers always taken great like limits on outrights. So you probably know more about it than I do, but I would think now, because of prediction markets, like I'm looking now, there's 3 million in contracts available on Scheffler, 15% on Kalshi alone. And that's without even clicking around. Like, and the existence of the yes, no, and all these things. How have you seen, and I bring it up because data golf, like getting published used to be an important piece of the timeline, right? Like that would have market impact too. And then there was some adverse selection into data golf. Can you talk a little bit about what the market life cycles of golf tournaments look like and how they have evolved in the era of prediction markets?
It's a really good question, Henry. That's just some deep research.
Yeah, I'm sure you
Um,
don't want to answer it either, but you're here on the
no, no,
hot seat, so you got to.
that's I'm on the hot seat. So I'll go first with like how it used to be. So, and I'm newer to this than someone like Rufus, but
We'll
so
flame Rufus
for
later for his Twitter takes.
no, we
Yeah.
love Rufus. We love Rufus. But okay, so basically how it worked is, or how it still works, is Data Golf releases their numbers um Monday around 1 p.m. Eastern. So occasionally some books would post early Monday, and then everything like FanDuel and DraftKings I think would post, and then everything would just move to Data Golf. And then Chris would release matchups on, or bookmaker would release matchups on Tuesday, and then everything, at least matchup wise, would then move right back to Chris, and that's kind of where it generally stayed until tee off. But you're right about matchups. Like, we bet a lot of matchups for a long time when we were, mainly just doing the sports betting, taking side of the business. A lot of it was matchups because you could get a decent amount down. You could bet into PPH, like Henry said, like you could bet into PPHs and not get free rolled on like a 200 to 1. And, there was a lot of them per event. So it was kind of like you weren't just, you could like a couple guys in the outright market, or you could like 6 tournament matchups and a couple round matchups a day. You may have some top 10s, top 20s, but you're trying to, like, as best you can, get enough like exposure to non-correlated stuff and bet, you don't want to be betting this guy to win top 5, top 10, top 20, everything. Like, that's one thing that can happen, but usually there with matchups, you can kind of spread it out a bit. Now I like don't care about matchups, and it's so funny because it's like what I cared about so much for so long, and I still think like we backtest our model on round matchups because I think they're the most efficient, hardest to beat the close for round matchups, because I think it's the hardest to beat market still. So I think it still like underpins a lot of our model, at least for finding like means or medians. But like I'll occasionally bet a matchup in like a really specific spot, but we care like a lot more about the outrights and the top whatevers.
Is that just because of kalshi? Because you're now doing so much outright and you can just get no's on everything, and that's what you're focused on?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just so much of the opportunity for us, like, is right now like on booking those for outrights or for top 5, top 10, top 20, whatever, round leader. I know they have some matchups, but it doesn't really get a ton of volume. Yeah. So like for us, like that's just more important. And then there's it's just it's a way different market than a matchup. So we've had to spend some time like getting good at doing that. Like it's not the same as just like betting 6 matchups a week that you like.
And
So that was a big adjustment.
you suggested in a tweet today that if you're quoting outrights for the Masters all week through the weekend, you will do 80% of your volume live. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And when you say 80% live, does that include overnight between rounds, or you mean literally guys on the course playing is 80%?
I would say when I said that, it was between rounds.
Okay.
As in like not golf's weird because you have like all of this time that's so there is time to accumulate volume. But yeah, that was kind of just, I don't know the exact number, but it's close to like if you mix all of the sports that we've done, I think it usually comes out around like 80-20 live to pre. I don't you guys have definitely a better understanding of that.
You mean, and again, I just want to reiterate because it has a follow up here. When you say live, you don't mean like in between. You're talking about just round to round, right? Like ascending.
No, what I'm saying is like when the ball's in play and then between the 2 rounds.
Yeah. No, okay.
It counts. So it's like if you take, oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I was going to say, if you take the number the volume number when the first guy tees off on Thursday, like something around 4x that will be like what or 5x that will be like what the tournament ends at.
So something that's always like irked me, and I have no proof of this, but this is just a hypothesis of mine, that a lot of the volume is, I don't want to say fake, but like market maker versus market maker, or like bot versus bot kind of action, where it's just like someone's feed was wrong, someone tried to snipe something, and get in there, and not true like rec flow. Like, would you agree with that assessment? Like, if of that 80% number, what percent of that 80 is like truly just like you're a recreational user, you load up, you know, I mean, assuming we're talking strictly kalshi here, like you load up kalshi and you say, oh, I want to trade that, you know, Scotty Scheffler's going to win the Masters because I just see him on TV now.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like you'll see how you'll see it kind of come through in waves where there's a few types. There's like person betting some number like to win 1,000 or less. And that's steady. A lot of that comes through a lot live. So there's like a lot of that as far as count of bets. Then there's event happens and someone either picked you off or picked someone off. That happens a lot. I don't know. I've never looked into what percentage of the total volume is, but that usually will come through as 40,000, 50,000 contracts, right? So how many of the little ones have to make up for that? Like a good amount. And then you have some epic punts. Like I can't describe it any other way, but like looking at the tape and I'm like, holy shit. Like sometimes you're like, oh, big orders. Or, can we swear on this or no?
Of course.
Just did.
Okay. Well, I mean, you got a producer, they might cut it. But you know, you're like, wow, that is just a terrible order for like
You
like
posted
30,000 contracts.
You posted all the action of people taking Tiger after the car crash this week. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just like, and it was so funny because I had been looking at it like pre-car crash and there was no Tiger going on. And then right when he flips his car, it's like Tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I don't do much golf. Not a market making on Kalshi personally, but like when I do, like, I'll do some like NBA live or some pre-game stuff, and I'll see the flow. I love seeing the under 1,000 contract fills because you're like, okay, no adverse selection. Let's book that action all day long, and then you see like a 50,000 plus contract, even number, and you're like, fuck.
You're like, I want to jump off a building.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's very interesting. Like you would think it's like you have an edge. Don't you want the bigger fill? No, not exactly. You want lots of like smaller fills, like to add up to a big fill.
Yeah, basically. Like, yeah, exactly. If it's like a round number all at one level, you're like, that is bad. But like when I see some of the rec flow, it'll be like they'll sweep like 4 of my levels, and all 4 were bad. Like I'm almost confident. Like I'm almost confident the first one's bad, and I'm absolutely confident like the 3rd and 4th are bad. So you're just like, well, that was terrible.
So I know. Look, you're probably quite public. Let me pull up the leaderboard just now. Like you are 358 million or so in overall volume, 26 alt on the list, 4th up for public. That can't be all golf. Do you want to talk about anything else you're doing? Anything there? Look, if you want to be hush hush, no problem. But I gotta ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I've been pretty public with, you know, we work with some hockey guys. We've built something with them, and we'll post hockey. We do, you know, I think we've basically tried every sport. We've tried live a lot. Like we've basically taken our lumps trying live because I think live is so important. Like if you can, as a market maker, like if you can provide a really good live offering, like it's very valuable to the exchange. So we've spent some money, some shares live for sure, in every sport. And I don't necessarily want to say like exactly what we've learned live, but like we've definitely tried all of them, lost at a bunch of them. Some are kind of good. So some of that volume is definitely some live volume at sports that we don't originate. And then we do we do like some various other, you know, props. Like we did a lot of the Super Bowl, for example, like kind of like get in there for special situations and find a couple markets we think we like and are kind of fit a profile where they're not super competitive, but we can do a good job kind of keeping our quotes up in there. So it's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but the golf is the biggest part. That's where we're like, you know, we'll be up the whole pre, live, whatever, all the markets. Except for we actually don't keep matchups up, but that's where we're kind of like, okay, like that's our strong suit. That's the thing that kind of keeps the lights on, as I always say. And then like we're always looking for other stuff too.
I know it's proprietary, but I'm very interested in what your in-house trading software might look like if you're both doing like passive top down in play across as many leagues as you can, but then also doing like aggressively modeled originated stuff too, right? So you must have some way of hot swapping between these different categories, and you must have thought a lot about how to achieve that. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, I would say it's it's funny because basically you have like golf kind of is its own thing. And then the other stuff is pretty similar. And a lot runs through that, but it's um the way like golf is handled and something where we have our own fare is handled slightly differently than when we don't have our own fare. And that's for pregame or for live. So like you basically break it into two camps. Like, do we have our own fare?
Wait,
Uh,
I just want to push. I want to be very clear, or push something back on you. You obviously have a fare on anything. When you say your own fare,
sure.
you mean originated fare. Just to want to make sure the audience is well aware.
Yeah. That's actually that's a really good point because you could have like I think top down is back flip. You know,
It
this is a
is.
great time to
It is.
it's completely back, but you have to do it like really thoughtfully. But it's a really good time for it, and I think that's a good point that you can have a fair top down, and you should.
Yeah,
So I don't.
absolutely. Now, how? So, wait, real quick, I want to ask. So, how much is your live thinking about this pesky courtsiders, and how much would you have gained if we banned trading at or truth seeking at a live event? I mean, that has to be basically the only reason why you're not up billions. If I'm guessing here.
It's exactly right. That is why I don't own one of the teams, or that's why I'm not yet playing golf with Dustin Johnson, but that will be solved. No, I mean, I've had a couple Twitter crusades. Like I say, I talk my book. Like I understand I'm biased and that's the point. But one of them was I think I don't flip. Maybe I should shared our live hockey fills at one point. Okay, to you, especially against like if it's Max Phil, like what
Yeah.
we're losing. It's absurd. So like yeah, like obviously court sightings I mean, it's obviously happening. I think we all know a bunch of people who are court siding on kalshi. And the question is, what do you do about it? Because I understand, and it's funny because now you know, I've made a point about like Rex wanting to get filled immediately, and well, that's the whole case for having a non-delay. But like, how does it work if you don't? That like I've kind of come to the conclusion that you know, is it a CFTC issue? Is that how it solves? Like you can't bet from the arena. Like when this is like becomes like actually um I know it's regulated, but when there becomes a little more like thought put into the rules or whatnot. Because I could see like to me, I think that's probably the only thing that would kind of stop it at this point. Um, but you know, who knows?
You mentioned Twitter tirades, and we've delayed long enough. Let's talk about your absolute no holds barred war against Rufus Peabody today, where you said he's one of the stupidest men working in sports betting today. No, what actually happened is kalshi has changed. Kalshi is extremely wide 1 cent ticks, and they've just started offering some of their golf markets with decicent ticks, so an order of magnitude finer. And you think this is a terrible idea. Rufus thinks it's a great idea. Why don't you make your case?
So sadly,
And this is
I
when the
think Rufus.
podcast gets boring, by the way. When we start talking about tick width is
Yeah.
when, the
Okay.
listeners
So
come. But
I'll
we
try
think it's
and.
interesting.
Okay. So okay, if you're listening to this and you don't know who Rufus is, that's crazy. But yeah, he is, I have no problem saying, the best, golf bettor amongst other things. He does very well. So Kalshi changed the first round leader market to decascent. So basically like it'll be, the tick levels are 91, 91.1, 91.2, etc. Goes on like that. And it's from 90 to 100. But that's where almost all the golf volume's traded. So it's actually like it wouldn't matter for like an NBA game as much, but like for golf, this is like the range. Most of the trading goes on there. So
With the big long shots, you mean?
well, like even if like Rory's in that range pre-market.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Bryson's in that range.
but things are happening in the 50 to 1 and longer range rather than the
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Right.
But it could be like even 10, 12, 13 to 1. And these are still getting the decascent treatment. So, I mean, I think, and the thing is, like, I talked to Rufus, and I think we actually just agree on what we want, which is, I think it's totally fine to go decascent at 100 to 99. Like, that makes a lot of sense. I saw someone say, like, Sandy Lyle at 200 to 1 sounds pretty bad for the Masters. It's like you shouldn't be betting Sandy Lyle to win the whatever odds you bet him. It's bad. You have no mojo. Move on to the Heritage. But like, I agree. So there is that like long shot part of golf that lives over 100 to 1 that I think you should probably just scale up to. Decascent would make it work kind of nicely. I don't disagree with that. 98, okay. But what I'm saying is like, and this is, I don't want to speak for Rufus, but he wasn't, let's just say he wasn't actually fully opposed to this, but it's like 99, 98, you have decascent. Okay, I think that makes sense. But then you got to cut to like quarter and then maybe to half if you're going down to 90 to make it. Because if you look at like what prices like sports books post, and if you saw it in decascent, like it's not displayed on sports books. Like the sports books themselves aren't posting decascent at like 90 to 91, 91 to 92. Like those are very fine moves. So, and I can say like why I don't like it. Contrary to maybe what some people think, like it has nothing to do with the 99 level. We're actually kind of like slow live at like bonding 99. It's like there's people that are better at that, and that's their whole strategy. Like I think that's like generally like a really good strategy in prediction markets that people do exclusively. What I don't like is how much of a dancing game this will become in live golf, and how much your informational edge degrades into the mid to low 90s in terms of ticks. And obviously it's so specific to golf, but like you have basically no reason to go and post up a level. And it changes the entire strategy. Like you're now going to be in this like dancing iceberg game with like the other HFTs and penny jumpers. Whereas I think like if you had like a half cent at like 92, and like I felt like I had a really like telling the difference between 92 and 92.5 is actually really hard. And there's probably like maybe a couple of people that can actually do that in golf. So like there you have an advantage if you have your own price, because let's say you post 92 and 92.5 is bad. Well, it's now becomes really valuable because you're holding the good level, and people who jump you are now holding like the bad level or like the ambiguously good level. Whereas like when you get to those finer increments, it becomes less risky for like people who trade a full HFT strategy to penny jump you basically. So like your informational edge becomes a little bit less valuable. But like at 99.5, like, yeah, like there's I think like I'd be fine like trading there for descent, but I just think like live, a lot of the action happens in that 90 to 95 range, and it's not good.
So I want to ask, because initially I thought I was going to hear basically a bunch of crying about why they can't bond at 99 or 98, but I respect this answer. This is a lot better than I was expecting.
Thanks, Flop.
I literally I didn't realize you didn't do that much 99 bonding. I was like, wow, okay, I expect there's more. What do you think, like, if I gave you three choices, one, only one tick, the 99 to 98, et cetera, two, decitic, or three, half tick or quarter tick, what would your, how would you rank those three?
I honestly would rank descent last.
Okay.
I would rank the current system second to last, and then I would probably pick like half or quarter as the best. If I couldn't do any kind of tiering, I would say, yeah.
That's a reasonable, because I felt like Rufus's point a lot. It's like someone like myself, I can pull up data golf, and if I see someone at like 92.7, I can just get in line at 92, and how bad can it possibly be? Like, you're not gonna poach me with post fees. You're getting like 91, so it's like you're kind of fucked. Like, if you like, they have to be wildly wrong, and they just aren't. So now you're competing with like me, which is just not fair when you do a bunch of work and I don't. So I understand where he's coming from, but I think your point is well taken. That like quarters or quarters or half ticks would be actually really good here. But to what I don't understand though, to Rufus's point also is at Decitix, like you can be jumping more aggressively, and now doesn't it not put a lot of like onus in getting like now there's a big, now knowing if something's 92.5 or 92.3, it's a huge edge because you can know how tight you can really go, or am I missing something here?
No, I was just trying to. I had the numbers. So you said 92.3 or 92.5.
Yeah.
Like the difference. What I would say to that is like, and I, love to hear Rufus's take on this, but like I don't think either of us know if it's 92.3 or 92.5. Like that's, whereas like we would definitely know if something's like, 0.1 or 0.3.
I want to tell a funny Rufus story in this
Okay.
kind. So I won't reveal the name of the person whose story this is that expensive. But so I was in a Calcutta that Chris organized for NFL. Yeah, for the NFL playoffs. Chris knows what I'm gonna say. So Rufus is in the Calcutta, and I think everybody presumes that Rufus has pretty good numbers going into the Calcutta. And the Carolina Panthers are on the board, and they get bid up to 26, 27, 28,000, 29,000. We're kind of hanging at 29,000. And Rufus in the dead silence goes, it's funny, by my numbers, they're worth 29,960. And somebody who I don't think had their own numbers just chimes in and goes 30,000, right? Like as soon as they know it can't possibly be that bad, they're just like, give it to me. Fine.
They're like, I'll gamble.
So I've never seen somebody like penny jump in a Calcutta like that, but that's kind of the idea.
Penny jump to a minus EV.
Yeah. But plus EV once you factor the sweat of the whole thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But that's the idea, is that like you want to make
Exactly.
it expensive to steal somebody else's information, and the order book does expose people's information. And it's funny
that's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
But there are trade-offs. I think it's odd, like a lot of people have done this for a long time. We'll say Betfair solved this. Betfair does the kind of granular it like changes over time based on regime.
Yeah.
But then they have their own weirdness for like the Betfair ladder is not symmetrical. So you can buy way longer, but you can't go short, but you can do the nose because it's all coming out of this limited array of markets that it was designed for that really don't reflect the American market at all. So it's a strange, nobody has done the thing that everybody's decided this is absolutely the industry standard and will be forever. And the proposals to it, one of the big trade-offs is, you could have something that's mathematically really good and it's just really confusing. And it can be a blocker to onboarding market makers or people. I typed in this number and it changed to this. Like there's product concerns too.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Like, I don't think people. I mean, I don't think people realize how hard it is to like onboard and change all your software and whatnot. And so, yeah, I mean, would I be happy if they change it to this and then change it to quarter or half? Yeah, I would be happy to change the we would change the software. But like, yeah, it's a good point, Henry. Like, it's not if it's something really complicated, or if it's like because you have to rewrite your quoting logic, and certainly we have to rewrite our quoting logic for Desascent. Like, that's totally different. So
Like some people propose, what if you went wider in play? If the concern is in play, it's like, well, now
I
you
saw
have to
that. Yeah,
now you have to get your in play signal right every single time. And what happens when you do it 5 minutes late because it's some small market tennis match in Kazakhstan? You know what I mean? And
right.
like there's a lot of downstream issues.
It's
Right.
funny.
Yeah. Anytime I have like an idea, I suggest it to Gabriel, who's like I would say like our DTO, I guess you would call him. I'm like, oh, just how about this? And he's like, that is gonna break everything. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's so funny listening to you two guys because I get the same when I joined Novig with Henry. I'm like, oh, we should do this. Like, I thought this brilliant idea. And Henry's like, hey, dumbass, we thought about it already, but it doesn't work for X, Y, and Z. Oh, got it. Okay, that makes sense. Like, eh, so
It turns out like you come in, you're like, I'm gonna be this big idea guy.
yeah,
And it's really gonna yeah. Yeah, it's hard to sometimes just get it to work. That does feel like the battle most of the time. But yeah, I mean, like obviously I don't think my solution's perfect, and there's a ton of self-interest in it. So, but I think like I do think that there's some middle ground here besides full descent to the 90 and like 1 cent wide. I don't think either are like the right solution. So I understand like maybe that's the only two options available now, like as far as because you have to like if you're the exchange, like all of a sudden now it's not just like you flick as we're all saying, like you flick one switch and it's like, okay, now it's actually, descent to 98, and then you get to go quarter, and then it's half. Like, and the Masters is, this week and we did it. Like I understand that's not like trivial. So, but it's I think there's some I don't know. It was mostly just a last ditch effort or out of frustration. I also kind of wanted to know if people thought I was like a total idiot for suggesting this. Like I did kind of want to see like is this idea actually like really bad? Um because obviously like you don't know until you put it out on Twitter. Like if everybody was like this is horrendous, I would probably be like, "Oh, okay." But it seems like it was kind of split. So I don't really know. I think it seems like some kind of compromise that will never happen is ideal.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap nerd talk because we've gone on too long with nerd talk.
Okay.
But a few quick questions that I want to get in before because the March Madness final is about to start. We're recording
That's right.
Monday.
That's right. Go UConn.
First of all, are you doing Rufus's and Jeff's Masters Calcutta this year?
I will not be, sadly. Are you doing it?
Is it a financial issue and you want to split an entry?
It's more of a time issue. Like we're
Time issue,
really
okay.
all right. Whoa,
we're-
whoa. Let's talk off air because I would love to do it and have and use your numbers.
Yeah,
So
come on. Let's make it happen.
we have we did this wild Texas Calcutta back in the day that we kind of bearded into. So we have like a Calcutta thing. But yeah, you're gonna have to talk to
a lot of
Luke
work.
and Gabriel.
Okay.
They'll kill me if
I tried to backdoor into it because I don't have numbers obviously through Clark. The Clark was like, "Nah, I'm doing it," and I'm like, "Can I get a piece?" He's like,
Clark?
"No, you can't."
doing it.
Yeah, I'm like, "No, I
Interesting.
can't."
Yeah.
All right. We also like to ask everybody who joins us in the Optic Odds Hot Seat if they could share a little bit about the most expensive lesson they've learned in prediction markets so far.
In prediction markets, yeah, I guess the most expensive one that isn't like just a one-time lesson was I think Flup learned this one too. The rule of fair price.
Yeah. Last traded.
I did.
Yeah, last.
I did learn it, and I calmly handled it. And I was like, "This makes a lot of sense."
Everybody said it
Yeah.
was so calm.
They renamed it to the rule of last tilted after Chris.
Last tilted. So like the not the card, like it was kind of the Cardi B rule or whatever, but it's like actually like
Oh yeah.
fair price, right? So what happened was they kind of changed the rules of golf. So it's like if a golfer withdrew, then basically like across the board in their markets, they settled to zero. Then they changed it where it would settle to zero for outright, but it would be like last fair price for not outright. And I was like, oh, okay. Like basically this guy withdrew and it was like a top 10 market. And I could take like something like the market was already at like the market had this like big gap in it or whatever. And I was like, oh, I could probably take no 97. Like it would have traded there. And like if it, you know, if it's like not basically like having basically forgotten the change of the rule, I was like, I know the rule change. I think 97's good. If it's bad, like if this is last traded price, like the last traded price would have been on the 97 anyway. Like I'm free rolling. I wasn't free rolling. I think it was like it was a lot of contracts. So it might have been like 200,000 contracts or something.
Well, what did it settle to?
92.
Oh,
So it's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it wasn't. Yeah. So I think I got, yeah. So that was like when I was like, oh, the fair price. And I think that was like around what like our fair was on the guy to be top 10. So I think maybe they settled to like the sports books or Data Golf. Or I don't know exactly how it settles.
They probably hacked mover.py and they found your numbers.
That's yeah. Will cut that? No. But yeah, like that was just me like trying to shoot an angle like flop and
Yeah.
And getting shot.
The angle shoots back.
Shoots, yeah. That's exactly right. That's
Angle's got shooters.
And I will commend you. There's two ways to handle this situation. One is bitching on Twitter, and one is not. You pick the right option. That one.
Yeah, I mean, I bitch on Twitter for the big important things.
Yes, right.
Sure.
Things that are so boring, we warn our listeners to turn off before we get to them.